Now, the big thing I wanted to ask you, Tony, was in regards to your content production process.
Yeah, I'm very up there. I'm also not afraid to say whatever the fuck comes to mind. So, like, fair enough, I'm probably not going to buy your coaching program or vice versa, like you would buy. I want to see your life, what you're doing. It's like people wearing the nasal strips about or wearing the...
If you're an online coach looking to scale your online coaching business, we have got Tony Mcalaevey, I'm going to fucking hash that, who has been blowing up on Instagram. I got connected with in Dubai, who's phenomenal at making content, has a coaching business and also does business coaching as well. We've also done a killer podcast on our fitness show, the Shredder Show, going into mindset. Now, the big thing I wanted to ask you, Tony, was in regards to your content production process, because looking at the way you film your content, and a lot of people mimic the wolf, which we'll come on to in a minute. It sounds like a porn star.
I wish.
That's his next career.
Be a short.
How does your content creation process actually look like?
Ooh.
In terms of, and I don't know if you ever talked about this on a podcast before, but in terms of like idea creation, the whole process to the production.
Yeah, perfect. I'll dive into this. I've never actually discussed it. Like, I've discussed it with clients before, but like probably that detail. So the most important thing for me with content is it doesn't have to be an original idea. It just has to be something where I'm like, I can do that better, or I can hit home with that more. So for me, a lot of it to do with is initially I just get the concept. So for example, it could be something as simple as like, I done one on like what supplements are wank. And I was like, because one, I wish I had that when I was younger. So there has to be a meaning and a value behind it. So I'm like, this isn't just posting for the sake of posting. That cannot happen because quality always wins. So I think of the concept, and then I'm like, sometimes I'll just get the idea and I'll just go in and I'll just wing it and it'll go great. Sometimes you do that, it goes to shit. So what I normally have is a baseline script and I'll write it out. And the most important parts are like the likes of if you got your hook, you know, something that's going to entertain people and make them watch. And then naturally, one thing that me and Sean Casey talk about quite a lot, he's well worth a follow on this stuff, is that you need to give people a reason to watch. Like, it's not just as simple as like, here's 3 tips how to grow your biceps anymore. That's not really enough. Like, it's the basis of it. So it's almost making the people watch to get the answer, to learn, like take them on the explanation.
The journey.
Yeah, and it's really, really like that. And I find that the more that I do that, the more I throw in bits of humor, bits of me, then people connect more with me and they're more likely to follow. Whereas 3 tips for biceps, like I can get that off anyone, but like, where are you going to get a joke? Somebody slagging themselves, slagging your mum. You learn who I am throughout a reel. I'm very high energy. I'm very up there. I'm also not afraid to say whatever the fuck comes to mind. So it's like, you not only get a bit of value, but you get entertainment. And I think that is what's really missing for content nowadays, is like that whole side of things where YouTube has, like where people go out for calorie challenges, and Joe, it's that whole dimension of like, how do you turn your following more into a cult? And that's really what I'm about. And I don't want it to be where people that follow is like, they're just following. I want it to be like, so when somebody writes to me and go, I'm a fan, I'm like, there's no such thing as a fan. I was like, you're a friend, or you're part of the cult, I'm part of the pack. And I always say that, and people be like, that's cheesy. And I'm like, I don't want a following. I would rather 7,000 people that are with me than a massive audience that aren't. And I think whenever you sort of cultivate that, you naturally like, I polarize people massively, because there's people's pages who literally are just based on giving me shit now, and that's fine. But it's one of the things of, unless if you're beige, you attract nobody. Like, I'd rather be like Marmite, and you will like me, or you will fucking hate every inch of me, and that's fine. That's okay. That's who I am. But I find that kicks people off the fence to buy or not buy from you, and at least that way they're somewhere. Whereas all these people sitting in your algorithm, not liking your content, not commenting, not hitting you up, not messaging, not talking about you, they're ruining everything for you. So for me, it's like, how do I polarize people and see if I throw
how to get a reaction?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm just like, how do I get more of me across here, that you either like me or not? It's like when you talk to somebody in person, they can't hide who they are. You like them or you're not. And that's the way that sort of works in my thought process. And so I always think, how's there value in this? Because you can't post shit. So the concept is the main thing. Like, what is the idea? What's the point of the video? Then I think, how do I make this entertaining, that I don't give you all the answers within fucking 20 seconds? So like, I filmed one in Coke Zero today, and it was like, how Coke Zero is better for you than fucking water. And I was like, it's not really better for you than water, but I was like, it's probably better for you than water if you're craving food at night.
It's better than Dubai tap water.
Yeah, oh fuck, definitely. I take that back. Yeah, don't.
That would be a good video.
Yeah, that would be good, except I fucking have to drink it. So I was like, right, what can I do here? And I was like, right, how do you make that interesting? I was like, right, how many bottles of Coke gives you cancer, or aspartame, or whatever the fuck? So I was like, right, aspartame, 5,000 milligrams of aspartame, or whatever the fuck it was. It worked out 60 tins of Coke. You'd have to be drinking per day to get any aspartame issues. So I was like, I'm going to order 60 tins of Coke. So I ordered them, and then that just adds like something to the video. You'll not see somebody else spend, I think it was like fucking 30 odd quid on fucking tins of Coke. And they wouldn't even give me them all. They give me 7-Ups and random shit and all. But it's one of them things where it adds layers to the video where people are like, well, that person's talking about sitting in their house with one tin. This cunt's actually bought fucking 60 tins and standing there, and I'm juggling them and all. So it adds more layers of entertainment. Yeah, whereas like I always think like, what is the content that bores me? And something me and Sean always says to me, and I always relate back to him, is like, when you scroll, and I think this is really good, when you scroll and you stop at a video, watch the video, ask yourself why you stopped at that video. That gives you all your answers. Was it how he spoke? Was it the hook? Was it what's in the background? What was the thing that made you go and stop and watch it all? And then see if you don't watch it all, what made you flick? Was it because he kept the scene too long? It's like my editor has a standard operating procedure, and it's like must change angle or zoom in and out every 1.7 seconds, no more. No way you can't get 2 seconds. So something needs to be changed. Now it's different if he's moving, that's fine, but if it's still
so
shot,
even if you're saying something 1.7 seconds, he has to be moving around.
or zoom in
Okay,
around
as you say it.
Yeah, so like it's just, I don't know why it's 1.7. It was like 2 seconds too long, and I checked all the reels I'd edited done well, and I noticed that even if I just same video, I just zoom in and out every. If I'm talking for 5 seconds, I just zoom in once, zoom in out. I just noticed.
And is that in the editing or the way it's filmed?
Yeah, like it just depends on what way. It depends on what way the video is made. You know, like if it's clipped like this and I'm talking, I'd be like every 2 seconds, every 1.6. Just if you've only got one clip, just zoom in and out, or make something happen, or drop the caption, or change a cut, just something. That's why you're seeing so much get added in. Now you don't want it to be where it looks the same as everyone else's. And I think a lot of the time people are afraid to put in. People are afraid to be different, but it's the thing is we're all presenting the same fucking shit. It's just how do you be different? How do you
stand out?
Yeah, like we're gonna give the same bicep tips. We're gonna like the aspartame stuff, but I'm like, what makes my video better? What makes my video different?
You thought of me, you made me think of a really good idea. But I actually, it's ironic you said this because I filmed a load of content this morning, and one of it was on popcorn. And like my girlfriend got like some popcorn from the cinema. I was like, that's not enough. So I literally went fucking. Actually, I was going to go on Instashop, and I found we had some like microwavable popcorn in my fucking cupboard that a friend had left there. Literally fucking microwaved all of it. So got like fucking popcorn everywhere. And I know like this is gonna be fucking dope because like as soon as you look at the camera, like you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, exactly. And I have this real thing of like when we were going, we made a reel with a croissant. We were talking about in the last podcast. It was like £100 for a croissant, and I remember Joseph coming with me and going like, "Are you sure you want to do it? It's like 100 quid." And I was like, yes, because see the fact you asked that, somebody else won't do it. And for me, I always double down. It's like, for example, like I would never have, if you asked me last year, the year before, never would I have paid for a videographer, flew him out to Dubai, lived with him, paid for all his food, covered him for his wage as well. Like that is that's thousands upon thousands. And I just thought, see, the whole time I was doing it now, and I find it so different because that's my mindset now. I'm like, somebody else won't do that. I'm like, so mine will go better. And I think this month, like, don't get me wrong, over the last, since May 1st till today, I've gained 360,000 followers roughly. So I've over four times really my following on Instagram. Facebook's 600k plus from zero. So it's all growing really fast. But the last month has been slow. But it's still 15,000 followers organically. And I'm like, would I trade them followers for what I paid him? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because it's worth that. Like a couple sales covers that. And it's always the person who's willing to pay most for the customer is going to get them in the end. And it's one of the things where I also think about it very mission focused now. I'm like, I'm paying this to help people. It's not just for me. It's like all that content's boring as fuck now. It's not entertaining, and entertainment is what's going to help people learn. It's like whenever I say do rope ab crunches and I go, think of getting your head, your tiny cock. Like people be like, oh, that's a bit crude. But I'm like, I'll fucking remember that. Whereas if you tell me crunch your pelvis to your chin, I'm like, fuck, that's boring as fucking shit. Like, whereas Joe, adding a bit of spice just makes it more me. So that's the way that sort of works, if that makes sense.
What are you using to script stuff? Are you literally just writing notes on your phone?
Yeah, like I literally am like just.
But are you writing it and keeping it in notes in your phone, just going through it in the gym?
So yeah, so the way I work it is I'll get the concept and I'll make scripts or rough scripts. If I'm feeling in flow, like people will know this, the film content. If I'm feeling in flow and I'm feeling fucking hot and I'm feeling like the king, I can look at the script and I'll just start spitballing and I know it goes well and it can take like 5 minutes to film a reel. The reason I have the script is in case you go into the gym
and your head's not in it
and you're just like, I can't be fucked with this shit. or you've got the energy, but you can't get
the words out. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes like I'd be sitting there being like, I need a joke. It's been like, so like I'll be like, right, I need a hook, bit of information, bit of value, and I'll be like, it's too long. I need a joke, and that's when I'm standing in the gym then for about 5 minutes going. You're just trying to think of a joke, and like it's really tough when you have to think of a joke on the spot. So like it's one of them things where it's almost like a comedian have fallback material, and I'm like, right, well, this is easy, throw in this, that's better. Whereas sometimes I'd be shooting them off the cuff, and he'll turn around and go, that's way too many jokes. Like you're literally like fucking just spitting them out here. Save these. So then I write it down. But yeah, I have it in my phone notes, and I always just refer back if needed, because you can end up getting lost or making it too long, and I make sure that it's all broken down into line by line. So like every time a sentence finishes, like if I'm talking to you right now, it changes, and we change angle, we change something.
So it should be like that conversation, and you refilm the next line.
Yeah,
so every
exactly.
line is separately.
Oh, absolutely. I just find that it's far more cut based then, and there's no breaths.
Well, you're forcing the 1.7 seconds in as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, there's sometimes it'll be longer, but that's how I would do that. And then I just make sure there's always somewhere where I'll say, drop me a follow, or there's a mom joke. They're like sort of my signatures at the minute. And then you'll notice that like depending on how the reaction is to them over the next, like for example, what I've noticed was initially when I started the mom jokes, which sounds ridiculous, when I started that, it was humping a bench in Hawaii, and the video was done way worse. And I was like, wonder if I double up on the mom jokes, will that make it better? It didn't go, I'm going to take them away. I goes, I'm going to do 2 in a video. And they started popping, and I was like, strange they're doing more of them, because people were like, this is sad, how many videos? And the more hate I got, the more people saw it, and then more people actually liked it, which is very interesting. Like my biggest performing videos, and the ones I've got the most, are the ones where, yes, I've got the most love, but I've also got the most hate. And they're controversial. They're usually stuff I really believe in deeply, like, like body image or something like that there, and it spikes up. So that's the way I work that process, and I just make sure I always try and I stand by the videos, because I'm always like, the main thing for me is that
the message is right, you're trying to get across. Does
this help somebody in the long run? It doesn't have to help you, it has to help the younger version of me. That's what I'm focused on.
And in terms of content research, what does that process look like in terms of for you to come up with ideas? Because I know that's one of the big things that people struggle with. I would say most people struggle because they're shit coaches that don't know enough, but like, what's your framework look like for that?
First thing's client issues. Any client that asks you a question that's content, because they're asking you, I guarantee you. Q&As is another one as well. I don't really like watching other people's content, because you'll naturally start mimicking it. Like if I was to watch your content, I'd be like, oh, that's a good idea. I would immediately, without even thinking about it, I'm already categorized to do it like you, because I've watched it. It's like trying to remake a movie. It's try and remake fucking Wolf of Wall Street after you watched it and make it completely different. You don't. It'll be the exact same movie, because that's what's seeded in you. So an original idea is usually what bangs the most, and that's why I notice it's like, or even if you get an idea, it's like, how do I put my own spin on this? Whereas you see people, they'll literally just take a script from a video that does well, and then it never does as well for them, because it's not original, it doesn't come across as authentic. And a lot of people watch this going, don't know about that, but you just see it, because I've done that. I used to copy videos all the time over people. I used to use it word for word. I'd be like, this is going to go viral, it's literally a better video, it's just shorter, more, and it does alright. Or they get a little bit of success, and they think it's the holy grail, and they just lose their whole identity in copying that other person because they've had some success. That for me is sort of the key. It's like making sure it makes an impact and it makes a difference more than anything, because then at least if the video does shit, you're like, well, fuck me, at least I'm helping somebody. At least it's not a complete wank. Whereas if you post just for views and likes and it does shit, you look like a bell end. Like,
you sold your soul, right?
I've done that. Yeah, and the thing is, you the more vision and mission focused you get naturally, the more it just starts clicking into place. That's the one thing I noticed since last year when I had personal issues and everything. I just realigned my vision, my mission, my values, and really lent in that. And then funniest thing is, the more I've just done me and took the pressure off and been who I am, and like the wolf thing and all, like people be like, oh, this is made up. That comes from anybody that knows like very few people will know this, is like I have a tiny mini palm at home. It's like it's literally the size of my shoe, and it does this weird howling noise, and I always call it the little wolf. And then I slap my chest and I always go, let the big wolf show you how to howl, and I'll howl back in its little face. And my ones always laugh then and be like, well, what do you, Joe? It's like a family joke. And I done that in one video in Mexico, because I hadn't seen my mum in like 2 months, and I howled in a reel, and I goes, did you watch that one? She goes, yeah, I saw the howl. And she sent me back a video of the dog howling. And see, since that video, everybody just calls me Wolf. And it's like, I done that for my mum. And the funniest thing is, it's such a cool nickname. It's like a nickname you always want. It's not like a kid in secondary school, whereas like it would never stick otherwise. But it was just like, somebody wrote back going, "There's the big bad wolf," and then literally I howled in the next video, and it just snowballed. And the funniest thing is, like, the more you are just you
become that person, right?
Yeah, and people are like, "Oh, but I'm born." Then you're not born. To somebody, you're going to be...
Create who you want to be.
Yeah, like, really good example is, like, a lot of people be like, "Oh, Sean Casey's content is very monotone." It's him, and it fucking works because it just comes across like it's just so him. It's just so natural. It's like when you see somebody and you're like, "Oh, that's who they really are." It's like your content and mine, like, if you replicate mine, no, straight away, vice versa. You see through it. You see through it so clearly. And I think people forget, like, your audience is smart, like they're not thick. They're seeing you and they're seeing all the other fitness stuff, like, so it's like one of them things where sometimes I think coaches can get a wee bit ahead and be like, "Oh, this is me being really smart," but they're seeing the same shit, so it's trying to make it different. That's why, like, even with the content process now, I sat down and I think taking that external viewpoint, you can't read the label of the bottle when you're inside the bottle. It's really important to take downtime and reflect on it, and that's what I was doing my content. When it slowed down there, I was like, how do I spice this up? How do I make it better? And it's not just going, whose Instagram reels are doing well? I was going, what's the next steps for content? And I was like, wonder can I condense calorie challenges on YouTube, do you know them big long videos, into reels and get value in them? So we went and done the Matilda cake, and I talk about calorie banking as I'm eating it. So you've got a good hook. I'm going to eat a 3,000 calorie cake. You've got me constantly doing something in order. You're wondering what the cake looks like throughout the entire video. It comes out, and I'm like, oh, I calorie bank this. So it's telling you how to live a good life. It's telling you how to go out for a meal. It's also got a hook, but it's also condensing one of them mad eating challenges.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, that's why we done the 10,000 calorie croissant, because I was like, nobody else is doing this. It's condensing one of these that would be a 30-minute YouTube video into a reel. And I'm like, wonder how that'll do. And if that takes off, it's like a new style of content.
Would do. I posted a video eating that, like dipping it in a coffee. I think like 270,000 views or something.
Yeah, fucking metal.
So I definitely pop. So like I'm on a mission just to find other random shit I can eat.
Yeah, there's like,
it works.
Yeah, exactly. It's just interesting. I think a lot of the time now, whenever people are scrolling, you don't like to say it, but they're escaping from their lives. They're looking at entertainment. And I don't mean that. Like, I'm the same. Like, you're sitting on the couch, you're not on telly, you start scrolling, you're wanting a laugh, you're wanting entertainment. You want to turn around to your partner and go, look at this cunt eating a fucking 10,000 calorie croissant. Where's that? Can we go? And then it makes you like a positive thing, because then you're known as, like, they're not going to follow you because say they go and do something like that, or they're like, look at the life this person. It's not like,
it's almost inspirational, right?
Rather than
it's different.
Inspirational eating croissant eating.
Well, no, but it's different,
yes.
right?
Like, absolutely.
What people don't want is to be the fucking 9 to 5 fucking mentality, which most people do, and like that vanilla lifestyle, which is what we spoke about. What would you say has been the big thing for you in terms of building your cult audience? Even if you say you looked at like social media stories, for example, because I see a pattern in terms of what you do every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's because you're really tuned in from a business front. Like, people will see, like, really good example of this is I have like the one hand club, I call it, and I flip
the energy drink.
I flip a tin and I crack it one hand, and you can guarantee your fucking ass, see if in about 24 months I'll have a tin of energy drink, right? Do you know what I mean? So it's like seeing long term. Now the thing is, I naturally always crack that one hand, and then I turned around to my sister one day. I was like, watch the king, and caught it and flipped it. But like, I dropped it 2 or 3 times beforehand, and then naturally now I can't drink an energy drink without doing that. I feel like wrong. So it is just me being a moron. I remember the first time I done it. I didn't do it with an energy drink. Done it with a tin of 7 up in my house, and I fucking splatted. It burst everywhere, and it fucking cracked, and my ones were cracking up. So it was like a complete shit show. So it's one of them things, like, it's like constantly that. Then I'm doing push-ups in the morning, I'm doing cold showers, and people are like, this is all a bit extreme, but it's like, you're either with me or you're against me. And that's the way I want it. I don't want you being in the middle, like, as you said, vanilla. Like, don't get me wrong, I like a vanilla ice cream. I don't love it. I would rather you turn around and go, he's a ball bag, than he's alright. Like, no, love me or hate me. And I think not being afraid to offend people because you want to help people. Whenever you know you've got the right mission and vision, is I don't care if I offend 50 people if I help a different 50, because they're not the people I could help anyway, and me being in the middle is not actually serving anyone. And I always think about, how do I serve? Because for me, I've always had the least fulfillment when I've chased money, I've chased followers. Whenever I go in with the idea of serving and giving, I always get more back. So it's almost selfish in a way, because I always get more from it. But that's probably the best way. The cult, it's really making sure that, like, I done a training, I remember doing it before for the clients, and it was on community v cult. And the difference is, like, really good example is this, and people will be like, oh, is Andrew Tate. Really good example. Everybody knows who he is.
He's got a huge cult.
Love or hate him. And simple as that. That's your own opinions down to you. But don't say you don't know him. Don't say he doesn't make good money. Don't say he hasn't got a worshipping crowd. Now, I'm not Andrew Tate, but it's one of the things of like it's the same as like even the Liver King. Like he polarized a lot of people, but like people knew he wasn't. I'm not saying lie and all this shit, but it's a case of like how do you do that on a micro scale? Like for example, I have a client, Daniel Dorgan, and like he always drinks flat whites, and I was like, just call it something different. I was like, anything. It can be anything. And I was like, and just constantly call it that, because then when people see a flat white, they will assume it's you. And I goes, how often do you fucking see one of them? And it creates that, like, where naturally you start getting associated with more than just that. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas, like, a wolf howl now, like, me howling, immediately people are like, what the fuck? Or a headband. Like, if somebody else is in the gym doing funny reels with a headband on, I get tagged now. Even if they're from the States or something, they're like, who's this wanker trying to be Tony Mcalaevey? And you're like, even if he is trying to be me or not, it's like, that's my cult. And I think it's hard to do that because you really have to know who you are, and that takes a lot of work. And I went through a lot of shit where I've tried to be over people. I've had relationships, and you just have to get really settled in yourself. And the one thing is, like, as a single man now at 20, see putting up all that stuff on Instagram, that's almost like women repellent. So you need to realize as well, it is though, like, what woman's going to click on my Instagram and go, you know what, I really fancy that lad that howls, make mum's jokes and wears a headband. Like, that's not happening. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of the things where, but at the same time, I am that wingnut. So if anybody does find that trap, they're going to be my sort of person. But the thing is, a lot of people don't like showing that side, that side of them. Like, and like I remember being like, to my sister, we were talking about it, and she was like, oh, like, wonder what your dating life will be like getting back in the game and stuff. And she was like, and I was like, I'd probably go live in the first date for a laugh. And she goes, you may as well let her in on what way you're going to be. And she was like, you actually would go live on Instagram on the first date? And I was like, yeah, because I goes, that'd be hilarious. And I goes, imagine me turning around going, this is the first date, live on Instagram, 500 people are like, what the fuck? And it's not for the gram, it's because I am that sort of moron. Like, I'm just wired and see what happens. And they're better seeing that real version of you early, but that's how you know I'm not doing it for the views, the likes, the followers, the money, the women, because like that's not what it was there for.
It's just your personality, right?
It's just who I am, like.
And I think the take home point for everyone listening to this, that's not something I can't replicate what you can do, but people can still take inspiration from what you can do to be the greatest version of themselves and not be afraid to put themselves out there. Because one of the interesting stories before I started my online business, when I first started, there was numerous people who were like, who the fuck does Charlie think he is? Why is he doing this? And anyone who's starting their business is going to have that point where they're like, fuck, all these people are giving me shit. Or even like as business starts to grow, more people will start giving you shit because you come different. And it's funny as you say, because I was actually looking at my Instagram this morning, it was like, I suddenly had a fucking load of trolling comments overnight about like wearing small shorts, or like you're fucking too small, or like you dress like a fucking dickhead, or like whatever it would be, or like nice hair. And then and I thought of you, and I was like, there's probably a lot less fucking shitty comments than Tony gets.
Yeah, they're good comments. That's like, oh, you're too handsome. Like, whereas I get like, why is Frodo on the gear? And some of the comments I read, the hits, I'm like, well, that's
quite funny, to be fair.
Oh man, it's funny as fuck. And the thing is, like, I find them all so funny because I know like it's just people giving me shit, but sometimes they be like, what's with that weird ear? Because like I have a bit of like a pointy, like there's a wee bit of like a cauliflower. It's like a point, but people are like,
pot elf.
Yeah, people be writing
elves
shit like that
forever though.
Yeah,
right?
people be writing shit like that. But the thing is, like, even with like your content, like if you were to come on and almost like be like, I'm fucking the new Johnny Bravo and talk off sunglasses or something, it'd be so like I couldn't do that. It could be a completely different series on how you do that based on the way you look, and like I couldn't mimic that.
I've had a lot of Johnny Bravo jokes in the back in the past, to be fair, as well. So.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like it's one of them things where like it's because you're big, strong, and you've got like the blonde hair. So the thing is, you could just lean into that and be like a couple of hate comments and go, I've been getting a lot of hate that I'm like Johnny Bravo, so I'm gonna go fully into this, and then naturally you start building a cult. But as you said, it doesn't even have to be like you have to now start drinking flat whites. You now have to start drinking energy drinks. It's like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis that's boring but adds up and it's different?
Do you know what's so interesting? That I had, shout out to Joe, the videographer who was filming with me this morning, came around my apartment filming all this stuff, and he's like, your life's fucking baller, you just don't show anyone it. Like, the stuff you do is so interesting. Like, in my office I've got like fucking red light therapy lamps, loads of weird shit.
Yeah.
And like, he's like, why don't you show it? Because like, for me that's just become normal, which is why I'm going to do a lot more like long format YouTube probably from January, but I need to get back into
that's really good. Because like what's the red light about?
So shout out to my friend Frank DeBlanken who recommended this. So I bought like a red light therapy unit, I think it was like $2,000, and I basically put it next to my desk in the morning, sit there in my pants for like 30-45 minutes of working. But it helps with mitochondria function, improves energy, recovery, everything, just like well-being. And I was like, well, it's really easy for me just fuck it. I'm sitting there anyway. So I was like, all the research says it works. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to want to do it every day. And for me, that's like the marginal gains of small effects of like how you can add these things up. Yes, I take shitloads of other nootropics and loads of other crap as well, and currently taking like nasal fucking peptides, loads of other stuff for cognitive function. But it's like, I like to experiment and push stuff to the limits, but it's probably stuff like that more that I should probably show more.
See, for me, like, fair enough, I'm probably not going to buy your coaching program or vice versa, like you and buy. But what'll keep me watching you is not when you talk about your fitness or you talk about that. I want to see what your dog looks like. I want to see
cat.
Yeah, like, people don't watch. I always relate it back to this. Like, people don't watch the Kardashians for the knowledge they're given. They watch it because they're like, I want to see what her fucking kitchen's like.
Or what the car's like, or like, yeah.
People are nosy bastards, but it's also one of them things where, like, I want to see your life, what you're doing. It's like people wearing the nasal strips about it or wearing the... you're giving me the real you, and I think that sells. It's like whenever I'm going on like a lunatic and then you see me laughing at it, it's like there's no pressure here. It's like, it's that whole side of it. And I think for you, the more that you... It's opening up too, like, it's allowing yourself to get that. A lot of people don't like that in the online space, whereas I just don't give a
And it's funny, I probably have gone the other way. I opened up a lot, and then because I came so business focused, closed up because I was just focused on other stuff and just didn't want to think about it.
Yeah.
So then my stories almost became quite manufactured, which worked from a sales point of view. But I think that lost some of my like cultish following that maybe I had at that point because I closed off a lot, if that makes sense.
And then I think long term that affects like your likes, your shares, your reach, because like I always say, like, following, whenever you're selling all the time, it's like killing the calf before it turns into a cow. Whereas like I never really sell. Like, I only launch the app 3 times a year, and it's like every 3 or 4 months I'm just raising this big motherfucking cow to then get slaughtered. I'm not calling my audience slaughtering, but I only sell once then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not calling everybody fucking cows.
Getting fed to the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, but it's one of them things where that makes sense then, Joe, whereas a lot of people overshoot it, and I think it's one of them things where, like, for me, I would rather people tune in and actually give a fuck and like it and enjoy it, because I just feel like that to me is like what's missing right now in like what separates you from every other coach out there. It's like your personality, your small tweaks, and that's where most people are missing the actual key thing. Like, the only difference between us is what I'm putting on my stories. And I feel like people don't understand that, yes, reads and content's great, but the stories is actually where you connect with an individual. Like, anybody that's followed me any time period knows what mum looks like, they know what my dad looks like, they know my tiny dog, they know how, they know my routines, they know me. So who are you more likely to give money to? Somebody just putting up a before and after, or somebody that puts up a before and after, but you know everything,
documenting their life, right?
You know their morals and values on every level.
Here's an interesting one. So like within our mastermind, we have a lot of like fitness influencers who are crushing it, influencers who are very good with IG, who have very high story reach, but they only post like 1 story a day, so they can maximize obviously the reach they get. But then I think there's a blend of doing that plus documenting what you do on other days, because otherwise you don't get to be transparently show who you are, if that makes sense.
You're not an Instagram page, you're a business page. And
do you want to be an influencer or do you want to be a business?
Exactly. And I feel like actually the best blend is probably like there's a balance. Like, if you're influencing, you're putting up discount codes, you're just asking kill your engagement. And if you're just putting up before and after, you're like, mate, please stop shoving fucking coaching down my throat. It's like trying to get that blend of like where you're helping people, you're allowing them, you're opening the door and going, you're welcome to come in, but I'm not going to force you in. And it's also that thing of like, but here's where I am. I think it's the know you, the like you, and then the trust you. They're like 3 separate entities. They're like, I know you because of the reels, I like you because of your stories, and I trust you because I can actually results. Yeah, and I think that blend is what you get. Whereas what I usually notice is people have 2 out of the 3 or 1 out of the 3, or they've just, and that's the reason why they struggle to scale sometimes on a marketing perspective organically compared to like paid, because like it's all well and good getting somebody in your pipeline, but like I don't know about you, but like for me, I always relate back to whenever I hired Joe Jeffrey. He's my coach. Like, I watched him for months before I bought from him.
Yeah, you stalk him, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you think about, like, did that happen to you with your coach?
Yeah, pretty much all of them.
Like, yeah, exactly, because you want to know who you're getting into bed with. And I feel like it's one of the things where people don't think of their customers like that. You don't think of your coaching clients like that, because, or anyone like that, but they do the exact same as you. People in your following right now are watching everything you do, and they're going, he's not for me, or they're going, oh, I love this man. And then all it takes is one thing for you to say, and on a personal level, and they just immediately go, that's it, I'm just messaging him or that. Whereas if they never get that personal connection, it's like, well, who the fuck are you? You're just this dude with abs that's a ball bag. Whereas I'm like, if you join my coaching, you know what my check-ins are going to be like. I'm like, yes, bro, what is happening? And I'm like, right, I hope the week's fucking good. I'm like, hope you planned your downtime. Hope you had a good fucking weekend. And you're like, this cunt's fucking nuts. But I'm like, that's me. That's who you're going to get. Whereas I openly turn around to people like, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not for you. Like, you're way too serious. Like, if I'm talking to you, I'm like, you're going to hit me. Because I'm going to turn around to you and say, like, if you do something stupid, I'm going to go, that's stupid as fuck. Why'd you do that? And I'm going to make you answer that question. Because that's the way I respond. When somebody goes to me, why'd you do that? That's thick as fuck. And I go, yeah, no, I'm a moron. Whereas if somebody butters me up and smooths, it doesn't do it. I'd rather you turn around and go, that reel was dog shit, than go, it wasn't one of your better ones. I'm like, no, tell me.
Yes or no, right?
Give me the fucking, if it's not hell yes, it's a fuck no. And I think it's very clear. The content side is something that's, I just feel there's not enough time spent. And I went to Dale Beaumont before. I found him very interesting. He scales like 7 figures to 8 figures. And he says that like marketing and sales is your accelerator. Everything else is your brake. So delivery, everything else. The more you can spend on marketing and the more time you can put in that on every level, that's when your business really scales, because he goes, everything else can realistically be delegated. The only thing you can't do is put your head onto somebody else's fucking body, and you need to be the front.
Yeah, without that, and that's why, to be fair, I'm spending all my time fucking doing this right now.
Yeah, that's what you should do, because nobody else can do that. Nobody else can actually take your seat in the podcast. 100%. Somebody else can edit, clip, do coaching, do everything. And I think it's that, where should your energy be going then? And whereas I feel like people tick the box with content, whereas I'm like, what is the only thing that matters to it? It doesn't matter how many check-ins I have.
Well, what comes first in the business?
Content, marketing, getting actual leads. It doesn't even matter if I'm not closing leads. Like, I have too many. Like, my main issue right now is, and I talk about this with my business mentor, and I talk about this with like constant. My main issue is I have too many leads. That is the best problem ever, because I hammer marketing so hard that I haven't even fucking worked on systems. So I've got my own problems. But like, I've never heard of many other coaches with that problem organically, where they're like, I have hundreds of leads. Like, I know people that are outbound my followers and my Facebook posts and all them, because they're like, there's so much money sitting here. Like, their strategy is go to Tony Mcalaevey and outbound them, because they're dying for it and he won't reply to them. Comments going, I've tried to get coaching from him for the last 20 emails and no reply. You know, stuff like that. But it's that sort of issue, and I think that overlaps, and it's like people are ticking the box with it, whereas you need to realize you're not a coach anymore. You're
a business owner, right?
Yeah, you're a content creator. As much as that sucks, if you're not, you're not. But I think it's trying to balance that.
Agreed. I think that's a solid note to wrap things up. Best place for people to find out more about you, Tony? You got your own podcast as well?
Yeah, my own podcast is The Muscle and the Hustle. It's quite mindset-y focused, like the stuff we done the other one.
Yep.
And yeah, you just find me at Tony Mcalaevey. You'll never spell my second name, so this will be the last you see of me.
I can't even fucking pronounce it. So I'll put the link below. If you guys are sure you enjoyed that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you leave us a review. Make sure you share the podcast with someone else who's taking a ton of value from this. Big thank you to Tony. And if you want help in terms of taking a business to the next level, hit the link below the podcast so you can book in a free call with myself and the team to find out how we can help you. We'll see you next episode soon.